Hello! We live in an age of gaming where remakes are happening all the time. Final Fantasy VII Remake being one of them, and other remakes like Live Alive. And there's always plenty of rumoured remakes such as the Final Fantasy IX remake. But today, let's have a bit of fun and let's kind of will into existence some remakes for ourselves. Now, I will not be alone in this video today. I have friend of the channel, Public Enema, who will give me 5 of his remake ideas. So with that in mind, here are my and Public Enema's 10 JRPG remakes we want to see. Let's have a look. Now, my first choice is Fire Emblem Awakening, one of the most important titles for the Fire Emblem series. Now, in this fan favourite JRPG title, we follow Chrom and the Shepherds, an army who are out to protect the civilians of the country and who are out to also save the world from the fell dragon Grimoire. To some, Fire Emblem Awakening is one of the best stories in the Fire Emblem series, and it is just full of fantastic battles to be had. Now, I mentioned earlier that this is a very important title for the series, and the reason being is that if this game was not successful, then Fire Emblem was done. Luckily enough, this was one of the best-selling 3DS games and one of the best-selling Fire Emblem games, thus securing its success and future titles. Now, this alone is the reason why this game should get a remake, especially with the popularity of Fire Emblem nowadays since the release of Three Houses and the most recent Fire Emblem Engage. Now, with a remake, the gameplay does not need to change here. I would just feel that the graphics would need to be overhauled to the same standards as the likes of Fire Emblem Engage and Fire Emblem Three Houses. Now, do you think this game would be worthy of a remake? Let me know down below, and let's see what I want remade next. So the next game I want to see remade is Skies of Arcadia, the cult classic JRPG made by Sega, which is currently stuck on the Sega Dreamcast and the Nintendo GameCube. Now, in this turn-based JRPG, we follow a group of sky pirates who are out to save the world and to stop an evil plan of ancient weapons being resurrected to be used to destroy the world. Now, I will be perfectly honest with you, the reason I want a remake for this is because the likelihood of a port coming to modern consoles just seems to get slimmer and slimmer every day. And it's one that I've never actually played, and I really want to play it. And look, getting this second hand for the Dreamcast or Nintendo GameCube in the UK, you're looking at £100 plus. That's just not viable. I would like to think that Sega would listen to the fans and bring this back. I mean, look, we're getting Like a Dragonation, and that was a Japanese only exclusive for a very long time. So maybe this could happen? Or do you think I'm talking rubbish? Let me know down below. Anyway, let's see what else I think should be remade. Now come on, you know it'd be here. Super Mario RPG. The Squaresoft JRPG for Super Mario, which came out on the SNES. Now in this, Super Mario will be looking out for the 7 stars to save the day. Now, this is another case of why is this not being ported to modern consoles or remastered at this stage. How I would like to see it is I would like to see Square Enix take this on, as it was a Squaresoft project before, and I'd love to see it in a 2D HD remake style. It just writes itself and makes complete sense. And I mean, since Nintendo and Square Enix are now on good terms again, maybe they could include an extra Final Fantasy special boss in there. But anyway, would you like to see this game remade, or do you think this should just be left alone? Let me know down below. Anyway, let's see what is next. And it's time for another fan favourite. It's Earthbound, a classic JRPG which was originally released for the SNES. Now, this game has finally come to modern consoles, Well, I say that it went on the new style 3DS and it's currently on the Nintendo Online expansion pack. Now in this game we follow Nez and his pals as they investigate a UFO crash, and listen, I still don't understand why this has not had a remaster or remake to this point. It's a fan favourite JRPG. You always see this in the top 10 JRPGs or RPGs you should play before you die. I would just love to see this in a 2D HD remake style, because the game itself is already gorgeous. Just give it that extra lick of paint and just have it available for everyone to buy on Nintendo Switch. But would you want to see this left alone, or would you want to see this remade as well? Let me know in the comments down below, and we've got one game left before I hand it over to Public Enema. Right, hear me out. Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood. Now you might be thinking, whoa, no chance, John, no chance. Listen, I know this is not a great JRPG in general, but it has the potential to be remade into a great JRPG. Now, with this game we follow Sonic the Hedgehog and his friends as they take on a brand new mysterious enemy. Now, the way I want to see this remake done, I don't want it passed back to BioWare. I want Sega to do this internally. Give it to the team that make the Yakuza Like a Dragon games. And remember, they took an established series which was action-based combat and turned it upside down into one of the most well-received turn-based combat systems. Sonic deserves more, and I would love to see him in this style of game. But am I right or wrong? Let me know. Now without further ado, let's see what Public Enema has to say and what he would like to see remade. Your turn.
Public Enema here. When Chicken Fillets asked me about remakes for RPGs, I honestly had a hard time keeping my list down to only 5. I'm a sucker for nostalgia, and I'm a big fan of getting a wider audience for some of these RPG classics that maybe there's kind of a tough barrier for entry on modern consoles. But without further ado, here are 5 Public Enema approved remake ideas. First up on our list is Xenogears from Square. This was originally released for PS1 back in 1998, and is a turn-based RPG classic with an interesting battle system with the Deathblow system, and also featuring giant robot battles. It's an outstanding and complex story, and Yasunori Mitsuda was actually the lead composer, so you know it's got a fabulous soundtrack. Originally this was actually pitched as Final Fantasy VII, but was deemed a little too dark and sci-fi heavy to be a Final Fantasy title, and actually almost didn't even reach the West due to religious themes present in the game. But the biggest reason it needs a remake is the fact that Disc 2 is incomplete, basically. There's one dungeon in particular where characters basically narrate you through the dungeon and then you just fight the boss. So due to budget and time restraints, the whole second half of the game is really rushed. It's also not super easy to find anymore. eBay listings for the PS1 copies are routinely over $100. Was available for PS3 and Vita digitally, but that's harder and harder to get now, so emulation is probably your best option. It could use some modern quality of life features as well, like the camera could be improved, it's got a fairly high encounter rate, and the battles can run a little slow, so like a no encounter mode would be really nice, and a high speed mode would be a nice addition as well. With Xenoblade as the spiritual successor being so popular, now's the time to cash in on Xenogears, and Square, while we're at it, will you release the soundtrack for streaming platforms, please? Next on the list is the Xenosaga trilogy from Monolith Soft. Yes, I'm going to keep it in the Xeno family, and also this is cheating because it's 3 games instead of 1. First game was released in 2002 for PS2, and it is the spiritual successor to Xenogears. Several of the Xenogears staffers actually worked on Xenosaga and formed Monolith Soft to create these games. It was originally proposed as a 6-game series, and like Xenogears, it had to be pared down quite a bit. The battle system is turn-based character battles, and also includes mech battles, much like Xenogears. And Yasunori Mitsuda returned to compose a good chunk of Xenosaga Episode 1's soundtrack. Unfortunately, Episode 2 underperformed, so the team ended up having to scrap half the planned games and try and conclude things early in only 3 entries, which the 3rd entry is the best out of the 3 in my opinion. I think they did a really good job condensing the story and making it complete with only half the games. Why does it need a remake? I think this was too ambitious for the PS2 era, and maybe modern consoles could do the story justice. It's not available to play on anything modern. Physical PS2 copies of 3 are really expensive, and emulation is really the only available route. The series is pretty notorious for long cutscenes, so maybe releasing for something like Switch would be ideal, so you could put the console to sleep and maybe resume the hour-long cutscene later. Some quality of life improvements could be saved anywhere, anytime, and fast forward mode would be nice. And Cosmos has been featured in multiple crossover games, most notably in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, so quit teasing us and just give us the remaster already. The third game on my list in need of a remake is Star Ocean: The Second Story by Tri-Ace and Enix. This was originally released for PS1 in North America back in 1999, and there's actually an enhanced remaster called Star Ocean: The Second Evolution that came out for PSP back in 2009. Japan actually has a PS4 remaster that was released in 2015 that's only available in Japan. It's an action RPG that gives you two protagonists to choose from between Claude and Rena, very similar to the newly released Star Ocean 6. It's got a very strong combat system and a very deep item creation system, and then also the series signature party private action system really make this game stand out. Like most Tri-Ace games, it's a little rough around the edges, it does not hold your hand, it can be difficult if you don't fully grasp all the game mechanics, but it's arguably the best all-around game in the franchise. 4's got better combat, 3's got more controversial buzz, but 2 is the best all around. Why does it need a remake? Well, it doesn't. It's already done. You just need to release it in the West. And Tri-Ace is really struggling right now. Star Ocean 6 has received pretty well so far, so just release this remake of 2. It seems like really easy money for a struggling developer right now. Volcano! Next up on the list, we had The Legend of Dragoon, developed by Japan Studio and published by Sony Computer Entertainment. This was originally a PS1 title that made it to North America in 2000. It actually received pretty mixed reviews at the time of its release, but in the years since, it's really gathered a loyal cult following. It's a unique turn-based RPG with the Addition battle system, which involved timed button prompts in order to do extra damage. And also for the time, the game had a pretty advanced and realistic CGI cutscene engine. The main character Dart was actually a planned DLC edition for PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale before Sony shut that down, so it hasn't completely forgot about this series. Why does it need a remake? Well, it could use a graphic update, and quality of life additions like no encounter and high speed mode would be welcome. Although the addition system is really cool in battle, it makes battles last forever, so a lower encounter rate would be nice. Also including an auto addition mode for the laser players out there like me could be pretty handy. Could also use some inventory expansion. The original only allowed 32 items for the entire party, which is pretty barbaric. A common theme with the games on this list is there's no great way to play on modern consoles. Hey Sony, before you remake The Last of Us for the 14th time, maybe remake The Legend of Dragoon instead. The last game on the list is Chrono Trigger, and before you get your pitchforks out, I'm only talking about an HD 2D remake. It was originally released in '95 for Super Nintendo, but has been ported to the PS1, the DS, mobile, and PC. But it's quite possibly the greatest RPG that's ever made, and it still holds up incredibly well. With the iconic combat system, the memorable cast, and the legendary soundtrack by Yatsuri Matsuda, what's not to like? Why does it need a remake? Well, it really doesn't. I just want to see it in HD 2D. It's the only game on the list that's easily accessible, and the best way to play it is probably on the DS, but good luck finding a copy for a decent price. Octopath Traveler, Triangle Strategy, and Live Alive show that HD 2D is incredibly successful, and Square's already reworked the famous opera scene from Final Fantasy VI into HD 2D to show that they're not afraid to tinker with their beloved classics. So go ahead and convert Chrono Trigger into HD 2D, package it with Chrono Cross on the Switch, and just take my money. While we're being hopeful, any chance we can get a third Chrono game, like Chrono Break, please? So there we have it, 5 games that I think are very remake worthy. Are these likely to happen? Probably not. Maybe Chrono Trigger, maybe Star Ocean 2 since it's technically already done in Japan, but the Xeno series is a big old pipe dream. Big thanks to Chicken Village for the chance to work on this video. I had a lot of fun putting it together, and let us know what remakes we may have missed down in the comments down below. Thanks for watching.